Hey guys, welcome to a season finale episode of Actions Detrimental. I'm Denny Hamlin, driving the number 11 for Joe Gibbs Racing. And my co-host is...
Jared Allen, purple vest 560. However, I anticipate that changing for next year.
Really?
Yeah, we got to send them back, and I assume I'll probably get a new number. I feel bad for whoever has to wear 560. That's a hell of a burden to carry.
Well, we have to change that. We have to put in a call. That you have to get the same number.
All right, well, you're going to have to put in a call then.
Wonder who we got to call there. Okay, well, if you're listening, Jared's going to need his number back, 560. That's his identity. It's like your face.
We need the fans to tweet at NASCAR, and we need the fans to take this lead for us.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they do. They yelled out.
At NASCAR.
Hey, 560. They do it all the time.
Yeah, that's why I said if somebody else had that number next year, that would be a heck of a burden to carry.
Yeah. Well, off-track stuff, we didn't have much except for maybe a couple of pickleball matches this week.
Yeah, we can just get into the truck stuff, right?
Sure. I mean, we can if you want to skip it.
It's just not.
I got one arm.
Not my favor to talk about this.
I got one arm, so I just figure this would be your best shot.
That's not true. You were way worse last year.
Well, yes. I've gotten better over time, but
right. But to say you have one arm is not fair. That's
it is absolutely fair.
It's not.
Okay.
The performance at least does not show that.
Well, it's luckily this game elder people can play like myself, and we don't have to move around much. We don't have to swing hard. We can just kind of put it in spots where you can't get to it.
Shouldn't you have gotten better since last year too, Jared? That's kind of how sports works. Like you progress.
I just don't play that much, and rely on a natural athletic ability to carry me through. It's a joke. I don't have a natural athletic ability. But anyway, what Denny's getting at here, he wants to say that he beat me 2 games to 0 in pickleball. This bet that we've had going for the majority of the season, he won. He beat me twice.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Thank you. That's all we need. Moving on. The Truck Series. What a show that was. I mean, what a show. It was fucking terrible. I don't even know how else to put it. I mean, it was just one of those things where, hey, are you hitting a button every time I cuss?
Yeah.
Is it a marker button?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's good observation by you. But if you cuss like close to each other, I'm not gonna try to separate it. I've been missing a few lately, so I'm trying to be more.
Yeah, oh yeah, we know.
Well, I've all right. I know my mom's listening. I got to back her down. Okay. It was just not good. It wasn't a good look, and obviously it's kind of old news now, and people kind of forget about it. But man, what a terrible precedent that set. Just for how to race for a championship and whatnot. Just generally speaking, just how guys drove each other anyway. I mean, I don't know why they thought that, well, it's the last race, so I can just, grind all my axes right here in this race. Like a lot of the wrecks weren't even some championship contender guys that are going for it. They're just a part-time guy wrecking a full-time guy, or a full-time guy wrecking a part-time guy. It was just, I just don't get it. They just lost their brains, and maybe they watched the Xfinity race from the previous week and saw that it was okay, and now are doing this on the regular. So yeah, just not a good look. I worry. I worry about the long-term stuff of when you do nothing about it, and you saw my tweet on X, just basically saying, this is what happens when you don't have rules or officiating, and it's, you get a messy product. And so I definitely stand by that, because I believe in the long term, you're not gaining any new fans by allowing that to happen. I believe, this is my opinion, that you take the casuals that watch it and say, this isn't a real sport. Like, they just knock each other out of their way. They just wreck each other. It's like a demo derby. I can watch that on Saturday night at my local track. Like, we're supposed to be professionals, right? So it just, in my opinion, is a bad look. And, if you want to sit at the adults' table for dinner, you have to act like an adult. And none of them acted like an adult. And, I saw where one of the owners is like, I wouldn't hire any of those guys. I agree.
I mean, is the problem though really no rules or no officiating? Like, is that really the answer? Doesn't
Yes.
this come down to the people?
I believe so, because
racing the cars.
yeah. So to me, it's the same as the restart zone, right? We said, hey, this is getting out of hand, and so what NASCAR did is then they said, okay, we'll get involved. So when they saw some bad restarts and guys laying back, they then called it. Well, I looked at Phoenix, and the field is bunched up. Right? I mean, Phoenix is a different racetrack anyway. The runs are a little different, but it only takes a couple calls for them to say, you know what, we're not going to put up with this circus. You're not going to just keep sending us under caution every 10 seconds. Like, that's not good for us. To make a call and say, that was deliberate. We watched you not only hit the person, but then gas up and keep going. Like, never give the person. You don't have to call the racing incidences. And someone even mentioned, do you call, like, for an instance, do you call the Carson Hocevar and Corey Heimrich? Right. No, that was a racing incident. However, what we saw is bad driving on restarts where people jammed it in, ran into someone's bumper, and then just kept driving until they spun them out. Or the person who ran directly into, I think it was the 25 truck, just deliberately took them out into turn 3. Like, that is deliberate, and it's just not a good look. So I think that it just takes you to make one deliberate call. There's going to be 10 of these instances at the Clash. They could use the Clash as an example to say, okay, if this gets out of hand, like, the Clash keeps getting more and more like that truck race in Phoenix. Every time we go there, it gets more and more like it, where people just are accepting of, all right, I'm going to power drive you into the car in front of you, and that guy will get either wrecked or spun, and I'll move up a spot. Like, that's what mentality is going on right now. You got to stop it. If you stop it once or twice, you'll have the racing that we're supposed to see.
I mean, can't you just have like to me, this is just all a problem with the drivers in the truck series. Like, you don't have this issue on Saturday, and you don't
because they have no
issue
discipline.
Right. So to me, then this is way bigger than just creating a couple rules for the children's table. Like, this is the problem with the people at the table.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying, Jared. I don't know where the confusion is.
Okay, but I'm saying is that you have 3 tables. And one table is acting up all the time. Instead of creating rules just for that table,
it's not just that series. We saw it in Xfinity, same thing last week.
I mean, the truck series,
and then the Cup. I just mentioned that it's gonna happen in the Clash unless the adult, which is NASCAR, I'm calling them the adult, says to the children, no, that's not how you're supposed to do this. We're a professional stock car series. Act accordingly.
Right. I just feel like this truck race on whatever it was, Friday, is way different than what we're going to see at the Clash. It's way more egregious.
Travis, tell him. No
Dude,
way.
It was a mess this past year. An absolute
Everyone
mess.
just kept piling into each other until someone spun.
But this truck race was way different, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, you got a bunch of guys racing for the championship, and you got 6 cautions at the end. It wasn't 6, but I'm just throwing the number out there. And you've got one with 3 laps to go is Corey Heim, paying back Carson Hocevar with 3 to go. That alters the ending of the truck race. Like, that's just way different than the Clash. The circumstances are just completely different.
What about the Xfinity the week before? I mean, it was never ending. It's the same thing. It's somebody in 6th was mad that somebody in fourth, bumped him 30
I
laps
get it.
ago, so they just plow into him on a restart and wreck him.
I just feel like you're opening up a can of worms by having to make calls on all these things.
It's not going to be a regular occurrence because when the driver understands the repercussions is I have to go to the back and my race is over, they will stop it. It is self-policing in that way. And instead, the old Bill France way, oh, well, it will self-police itself. That's
Right.
what's happening out there. Someone is bumping someone, and then someone's taking it to the next level and wrecking the shit out of them. That's what's going on the track. That's self-policing. That's what's going on. These guys aren't doing it for no reason. It's because that person may have ran them slightly up the track a lap before. So they're just crashing them.
But what about when the correct call isn't made? Like, what happens when...
It needs to be blatant and obvious. I don't understand. There's many instances where it is blatant and obvious. Those are the ones that you make the call on.
Okay.
Okay. It's a ball and strike, Jared, just like anything else.
I get it. I just feel like the majority of those are coming from guys mid-pack anyway, where the punishment
So you're
isn't going to
saying-
be it's just not going to change anything. I don't know.
I mean, the Cars Tour, they can officiate it. Do you think they have the infrastructure NASCAR does? No. Okay. Well, they're putting blatant wrecks to the back.
I will say to Jared's defense, I think there will be. You say it's balls and strike. Well, how many times is a ball called a strike? Like, there's going to be some incidents. So then, how do you deal with that?
Like, I feel like you're solving a problem, but you're potentially creating another problem.
I don't disagree. There's a cause and effect for everything, but missing a call versus not doing anything is worse for the overall sport in the long run. This is not a joke of a series. Like, we are the top 3 series in motorsports in the U.S. Officiate it accordingly. I don't understand why that's so hard. They used to park Dale Earnhardt for a lap or 2 laps when he blatantly wrecked someone. That's been around for a long time. And then what happened is NASCAR figured probably, well, that's actually kind of good for the sport. But then people are just taking it too far. They've taken the gap that they've given, the rope that they've been given is they're just taking too much of it. So you got to reel that back now.
How many times do you think it would take for the drivers to get the message? Couple,
Just a couple. That's fine. I mean, it just a couple's fine. But anyway, we were nearly right with Grant Enfinger just out of the blue winning the thing. He probably should have. And, when you look at kind of how the last part of the race played out, it was very disappointing to see Carson wreck Corey Heim. Corey raced him clean. He took his time getting around him. He was methodical to in the way that he passed him. And then the 42 of Carson attempted to hit him once, and he did, and it didn't get him enough out of shape. So then he attempted to hit him again, and then is crying tears that he wrecked him afterwards. Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, there's a very fine line between moving someone up the racetrack and then, for instance, like Larson did Blaney, right? He was trying to slow. He knew what was going to happen. He was trying to delay when it was going to happen. So he's trying to either get one more caution. If he can delay that pass for a handful more laps, then that gives him an opportunity to, if the race goes green, then there's less laps in the race. So he's going to finish less, not as far in front of me, and then maybe I'll have a shot later. Or I'll get a caution, stay my track position in front of him, and then you never know what can happen on another restart. So what we saw with the 5 and the 12 in the Cup race, that was executed correctly. That was Larson trying to make an attempt to delay the inevitable with the 12 car that was faster than him and was going to pass him. The 42 just wiped him out, and then was oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen. Oh, yes, you did. You meant to hit him and knock him out of shape. And the difference in the amount of force it takes to knock someone out of shape versus spin them out is a very small margin, like entirely small, very, very small. So he noticed that he didn't get him out of shape enough the first time, so he was trying to do it again to, you can argue whether he meant to knock him out of the way or wreck him or whatever. It doesn't matter. The result was the same, that he spun the championship leader who had just passed him clean. So it was, obviously not a good look. Tyler Reddick tweeted something. I retweeted it because I believe what he said. Martin Truex made some pointed comments about it. I believe what he said. I'll just agree with what those guys are saying, and that he's got a long way to go for sure. Especially racing on Sunday, he's got a very, very long way to go.
That tweet from Reddick was, "This dumbass will never learn."
Yeah, I mean he will learn. It's just going to take it appears it's going to take a very, very long time because he doesn't learn very well.
Although we were just singing his praises here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which is ironic.
Yeah, I mean, I think because of the performance that he's had,
right,
winning races and whatnot. He went through definitely a phase in the middle of summer where he wasn't crashing people all the time. It stemmed from, remember Martinsville, he hooked somebody. I mean, we've seen a little bit of this stuff happening in the Cup race. I mentioned it when he wrecked Ty Gibbs for whatever reason last week. And then when I've been around him too, I've just seen him get on some people's nerves. Let's just leave it at that. And so, it just takes time to learn, and you're going to learn that these races are really long, and you got, it's give and take at times of the race. And, again, he is young. He will learn. It just will take, a fair amount of time for him to get there.
Where do you stand on the payback that we saw on track?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so torn on it. Only because I think what happened to Corey was so wrong. I think in general, what Corey did was wrong. It wasn't wrong except for in that situation. It's the end of the race. Grant's got this thing in the bag. I think it was 3 laps to go or something. Yeah, it altered the race. It obviously altered the championship. I don't know. It's tough for me to be hard on him because I sympathize with him because the guy had it in the bag and he got it taken away from him. It's the head-banging part of this sport of, like, he did everything he was supposed to do correctly, and he ended up crash because someone chose not to race him fairly. And so he gets defined on whether he won a championship because of somebody else's decision, not his. And I'm
talking about Corey Heim.
Yeah. And so he's pissed off in the moment, right? And he's like, I'm not waiting till next year. Next year, my emotions ain't going to be what they are right now. And so I'm did he mean to bring out a caution? I don't know, but he definitely meant to run him up the racetrack. There's no doubt about that.
Right. It's funny because, this situation may not have turned out the same, but if Corey Heim kept this car on the racetrack and didn't destroy his own truck, he could have had a chance to still win the championship.
Yeah, man.
With the way everything
I
played
was
out.
watching how it was going to play out, and he was done. He would have had to pit. He was done. The other two, Ben Rhodes and...
If he didn't take the right side off his truck in that caution, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but he was going backwards. Like, he wasn't able to keep up with any of those guys anyway. Like, he was already the third guy in championship line.
Right. It just the way it turned out. It's like if your truck was on the track, you had a chance.
And this is his last chance to pay back Carson.
Yeah. That's true too. I didn't think about that. Yeah, because Carson's moving on, right? And he's not.
Yeah. I don't know. That just seems like an off
Which
the
that's
track.
backwards, by the way.
What?
Nothing. Just making comments. Yeah, so you had Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes is your Truck Series champion. I don't know who saw that coming. I with all due respect to Ben Rhodes, I didn't. He was invisible. He didn't have a whole lot going on this year, but he won the race that it mattered, and he's the champion again. And we got to see the great Ben Rhodes presser after. What's interesting is they said he goes from being totally sober out of the truck to 10 minutes later absolutely hammered in the media center. And so I guess that happens between the transportation of Ben between the car and the media center, or what? When
the
does it get
Champagne and Victory Lane?
Oh, he just kills it?
They said they moved his barn appearance to after the press conference. So he knew that and just went all in on the champagne, the Victory Lane champagne.
Before they did the barn and then?
They moved, if I got this right, they moved last year when he won or 2 years ago when he won the truck championship. He went to the barn first and then the media center, which is why he was so hammered. But this year they changed it to put the barn after his media center. And he heard that they did that, so he just got hammered in Victory Lane on the champagne.
Gotcha. You know, it's so interesting. I hear you saying the barn. Like, we're talking about the spots that we're going to watch the F1 race when we're in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
Could you imagine one of those? Hey, we can watch in turn 4 at the barn. Like, it's just the lingo. It's just so different. And, you know, paddocks and, you know, us garages. Right. You know, we're very, it's just different. It's just different. But yeah, so that was interesting. It goes to a bigger, wider question in my mind, because, you know, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it was very similar to Blaney's in the sense of, I mean, Blaney was more dominant in the round of 8 than, say, Ben Rhodes was, where he was kind of more surviving and you know, getting the best out of his day, and then just win, you know. Well, I guess he didn't win the race, right? No. And then he ran well at Phoenix, and he won championship. Same with Blaney, right? You got to just be good at Phoenix now. I mean, is that the new riddle to winning a championship?
You got to be good the final 4 races. You got to get to the round of 8 and then just be good the final 4 races.
It appears that riddle works. It's just focus on a couple races.
Well, think about this. Ford this year won 8 cups, 5 Xfinity, 6 trucks. They had all 3 championships.
I don't know. I mean, I just think that it's why we were talking about Blaney is he's going to be the fastest. It just historically that's been a really good Penske track, and they did it. They did it. I mean, if you take them to, I don't know, somewhere else, I mean, maybe it's a different outcome, but he was good at all he was good the last 5 races, like legit. Like,
yeah, he was very
really
good.
fast, like out of the blue. And so it was a game changer when he showed up in the round of 8 and really last couple races of the round 12, like he was starting to come on, and the next thing you know, it's, whoa, where'd he come from? You know, we even talked about on the show, I don't think he has the speed. I think not him personally, the cars had not shown any speed. And what's interesting is the 22 has not shown any speed. Like, there's usually not a gap between the two. So he just either stepped up his game and got a lot better, or the cars got better, or whatever it was. The last 5 races won him the championship.
Yeah, listening to the teardown this morning, I guess the last shout out for that show this season, was reminded that earlier in the playoffs, Joey had said, you know, we just want to hang around long enough until we figure it out.
Yeah, whatever they figured out, they gained a ton in a very, very short amount of time.
But that's the goal, right? It's just hang around in the playoffs, make it from advance through the rounds, and if you're not good in the round of 16, maybe you'll figure it out by the round of 8.
So it's like what I was talking about with the 12 and the 5 and the 42 and the 11 in trucks. They're trying to delay the inevitable to maybe catch a break. And so that's what you're saying is what Joey was talking about is that we're just trying to hang around long enough for something good to happen. And it did. Joey didn't make it, but the 12, I don't know why Joey didn't make it. More than likely had a bad race or two, finished bad. But usually you can make it to the round 8 by still being just solid. You know what I mean? You don't have to be great in the round of 12 to make 8. You got to be just pretty solid.
Yeah.
You got to just not suck in the round of 16. Be solid in the round of 12.
Not have anything happen to you.
You got to be great in the round of 8 and then the final race. But, it's apparent to me personally, and I hate to jump too far ahead, but like if people say, well, how are you going to win a championship next year? I'm like, I got to run better at Phoenix.
You got to run better at the round of 8. You run good through the round of 8.
We ran good enough. We ran good enough to make it. The mechanical failure kept us from making it.
Sure, well, I'm including that.
But it doesn't matter unless the 11 team gets better at Phoenix. It doesn't matter. Again, we can win 35 races. It doesn't matter. You if you're not really, really good at Phoenix, none of this matters. Right?
Correct.
So do you up how much like sim time and stuff on Phoenix in the off season?
Yeah, what's the recipe to getting better specifically at Phoenix?
You got to figure it out. There's different ways you can work on it, but like I look in general, and Truex was somewhat up front, but we just weren't that strong. Generally speaking, like even Seabell didn't qualify his normal. And in the race, he was okay. I was watching plenty of SMT, and the 12 is still stronger, much stronger than he was in the long run. So it was going to be difficult. So it's interesting. We knew the format. We've always known this format, but it was just, this is the first year that, in my opinion, the Ben Rhodes and the Ryan Blaney's, where they just got good in the last couple races and won the championship. Like they got, when I say good, they got great. They didn't get good. They got great and won. And so can you just hang around and get past some of these summer races and whatever and just win it in the end? It appears that methodology works. I don't know. It's hard to count on that, but it worked for those guys, and certainly, I can't find the account, but there was a really good count on X that shows like the stat leaders in all these different categories, and you see like the general, like I saw the Truck Series, it's like Corey Heim leads most of this, and Carson Hocevar led a little bit of this category. Like you kind of see all of it, and then it's kind of, you see who was really up front the entire year, and you never saw Ben Rhodes on any of it, which was crazy. Like it, and I don't even remember how he made it to the round of 8. I think he have a different strategy or something at Homestead. I think he had a different strategy.
Yeah,
and then it worked out for him.
Made it by a couple of points, if I'm remembering correctly.
Because they really weren't very good on speed, but they just had a different strategy. They got in, and next thing you know, they survived that mess of a race and won the championship. So it's a head scratcher for me, for sure. I clearly have not figured out this riddle, and it all seems to boil down to you got to have good luck at the end. You can't have a bad race in the round of 8, and you got to be great at Phoenix. And that's what made Blaney, in our eyes, the favorite going in there. He historically has been great there, and Penske has, and it showed up once again that it favored that one team.
Yeah, Ben Rhodes squeaks into the championship four with strategic call at Homestead is the headline. So,
and now he's your champion. It's
just keep your day alive. That goes
crazy
back,
sport, man.
We'll be talking about this soon enough with Daytona, but that goes back to your philosophy on blocking, right? It's just keep your race alive as long as possible. And you don't know what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
We skipped over the Xfinity race.
No, well, we didn't because I didn't really go into the Cup race quite yet. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? I know that's a bold question, but it's got that irresistible taste to back it up. Well, when you've got an irresistible match like zero sugar and 0 calories, something sensational is bound to happen. It's like when me and my co-host Jared team up to make a podcast. It's too bad you can't taste with your ears because Coke Zero Sugar tastes so amazing, it's hard to put it into words. But hey, that's my job, at least on Mondays. You have to taste it for yourself. Coke Zero Sugar, the best Coke ever. Cole Custer wins Xfinity. Hats off to all the Xfinity competitors. Way to finish that race. Way to do a good job racing it out. I thought that John Hunter was in a really good position to win that race. I thought he just overdrove turn 1, and that's why he went straight. I didn't see any flat tires or anything like that. I don't know. I wasn't in the car, so it's tough for me to say, but it looked like just went too deep, slid up the racetrack, and then he got in the loose stuff outside the groove and lost some positions. But then you saw a great, I think it was 2 or 3 wide into turn 3. Everyone overdrove the corner. Allgaier, he was in there. He overdrove the corner. He got up too high. Cole Custer overdrove the entry, but was able to pull it down on the exit. And, you could argue the best car won. It was close between him and John Hunter, who had the fastest car. It looked like they were tit for tat pretty much the entire event. Then it was kind of Justin Allgaier. Then it was Sam Mayer. But Cole Custer, really happy for him. He's a really good guy, and he tried to cut his teeth in the Cup Series, and he had some success. I think he won in his rookie year, but it just kind of went downhill from there. I mean, it's really tough to say now in retrospect. Now that we've had a little time, like, did he just, was it him or not? I think he's going to get his spot back in the Cup Series sooner than later. Certainly his results in the Xfinity Series, as much as he's proving himself, he probably deserves that. And so he gets to enjoy this Xfinity win, as he should. Him and John Hunter, you feel like we're just the most consistent. I mean, Justin Allgaier was really strong as well the second half of the year. But those three, you wanted to see one of those three really win the championship, just because I thought that they were the most dominant the entire year. And more than likely, if you saw this big old giant stat column of all these different stats of laps led and driver ratings and top 5s, top 10s, wins, they're going to take up the bulk of the page on that. And so it's good to see that Cole was able to bring that home, and great to see Tony in there and how excited he was as well that Cole won it.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to drivers where if it doesn't work out in the Cup Series on your first go around, if you drop back down to a lower series and win races, right, and keep your name on the map, you'll likely get that second chance. You're going to see it with John Hunter, and like you said, it seems like it'll be inevitable for Cole Custer one of these days. Yeah,
and that's what it's designed to do, right? And Xfinity is kind of the stepping stone to Cup. The cars don't relate as much as they used to, for sure. Probably the Truck Series is a little bit more equal in how you drive them to what a next-gen car is. But yeah, it is, it's considered the second tier series, and Cole Custer finally gets his championship there.
Cup Series on Sunday, as I think Travis pointed out, Ford sweeps the weekend.
Swept it out of nowhere, out of nowhere for sure. But I thought that the race kind of played out how it looked like practice was going. Even though we did have an extended practice that this weekend, the 12 car had the most speed. It seemed like then it was kind of the 20. And I thought that the 24 and the 5 were going to lack a little speed. I think you had even seen in William Byron's comments or someone at Hendrick's comments about the lower downforce package, they're not as good. Their cars aren't as good. They don't have as much speed. Just outright speed and long run speed. And I think that kind of showed up on Sunday. I thought that the 12 was methodical, making his way to the front. It was a matter of time before he got there. If he ever controlled the race, it was going to be a snoozer. Because challenging, I believe it was already challenging from what I hear, passing for the lead. But I think that he was by far the best. The 5 car just really lacked long run speed. That's kind of their Achilles heel, it seems like, is that they've got such fast speed at the beginning of runs. This is just generally speaking, not just about Phoenix, that, they struggle with long run speed. That's more than likely Larson pushing the car, to its absolute capability, which makes them so lightning fast. But eventually something has to wear down, and it's usually the tires that do that. But he put up a great effort, a valiant effort, trying to hold off what was the fastest car of the weekend, which is the 12 of Blaney. The 24 made it out on pit road. Didn't he take the lead like 2 or 3 times on pit road? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I see this both ways, but there's a long gap between the camera at the end of pit road and then where the yellow line is, where they stop, where pit road speed ends. Do we have to give the number 1 pit box that big of an advantage? Like, I'm wondering, it's such a big race. Why do you, if we had another champion decided on pit road, is that really, I guess it is a team sport, so it is. So you want to give the pit crew guys a chance, and it's up to the driver and the team to keep putting themselves in position for the pit crew to put them out first.
Right. Well,
it is a considerable time difference in having the number 1 stall versus having, the 5th stall.
Right.
Whatever
Well,
it might be.
It's funny you say that. Not that he had the first stall, but Larson had said, he wanted more pit stops. He wanted to pit more often because he knew his pit crew was so good that he could gain those spots he couldn't gain on track on pit road. However, ultimately, the guy who did come out on pit road first on the final caution was not the winner of the race. Right,
which that's why we saw a great battle there, right? Is that, I think we kind of knew that the 12 team had definitely gotten better, but I just didn't think that they had the all-out speed that the 24 and the 5 had. The 5 had most top-end speed, I felt like. The 24 most solid, like fast and solid. And then, then the 20 and the 12 after that. And it kind of played out that way. And, like Larson's saying, that's why they love cautions, right? They love cautions because they're going to gain spots on pit road, and then it fits their car's handling characteristics as well, which is to be fast on the short run. So they're always going to want more cautions, because it just fits kind of their MO of what their bread and butter is. Same with the 24. Once he got out of the lead, it appeared he wasn't really that strong, but he just had the track position and was able to keep it. And his pit crew just kept giving him more and more chances, which that really is how the regular season played out as well, is that, he would just keep himself in the top 5. And, again, he led a lot of laps too. Let's not discredit that. He led, I believe, over 1,000 laps this year. But then the pit crew would just put him out front, and then boom, he'd check out and be gone. So it's definitely, that number 1 stall is a huge advantage, especially in today's next gen racing where it's very, very difficult to pass. So I'm wondering, to level this thing out. They've leveled everything else out. Why not level out the camera on pit road to make it so where one car doesn't have that big of an advantage over the rest of the field rolling down pit road?
Is there something to these mechanical failures that Toyota had down the stretch that kind of took away their championship hopes this year?
I think it was more of a coincidence than anything, because the two things don't even remotely relate with my steering issue. And then
I'm throwing Truex's blown engine in there too.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. No, it is coincidence still because they're all different. But yeah, it's certainly played a role in the last 3 races, right? So I think that it's certainly not ideal. We don't know. I don't know personally whether that was a setup issue with the 20 or a driver too much brake issue. I don't know, but it if it blows a rotor out, then it's too hot. So it got too hot somehow, some way.
What's usually the reason a brake rotor gets too hot?
Usually it's the front of the car is taped off too much, so they're not having enough air cooling it. But I heard them mention that the 20 was wide open on that. I think even TV mentioned that the openings were wide open on the 20 car. So then it could be, what would be the next thing? Is that a lot of right front brake bias or something? I'm not, who knows? There's just could be a lot of different factors into it. It could be setup. It could be brake package, a lot of things. But either way, blown rotors come from too much heat. So, there's not too much hidden there. And so, it certainly was a bad break for Seabell. He's doing everything that he can. He's making his way towards the front. He's kind of following the 12's footsteps a little bit through the field. And, the 12 got around him, I believe. And then, he was following him through there. But, I think the best car of the day won the race. Well, they didn't win the race. When they won the championship of the best 5. The best 4 cars. And really for the first time since we did it in Homestead, we had a new winner win the race that wasn't part of the Final Four in Chastain. So it's just, it speaks to the level of how equal these cars are. And if you get out front, you can aero block. We saw Blaney and Chastain's comments after the race, just kind of, Blaney, he says a lot on the radio when he's racing. If things don't go his way, it's he certainly gets upset pretty quickly. But he's upset because he feels Chastain is backing him up to the 5 car, which is coming. So while Chastain's probably just doing whatever he can to maintain the lead,
right,
and aero blocking him, I mean that's how much of an advantage it is to be out front. Is Chastain is able to slow his car down enough to swerve through the corners, and the second place guy who runs the optimum line still cannot pass him because the minute he swerves into the wake and creates a wake for the 12 instantly loses so much grip that he backs him up.
Right. Is that a 100% reality though? Because Blaney drove around Larson, which looked, fairly routine. So if Larson could do the same thing that Chastain did to keep Blaney behind him, then why wouldn't he? It just seems like that Chastain was probably just a little faster than Blaney, or Blaney wasn't fast enough that he was going to just roll around him easily.
Well, I was watching the lap times. He was easily 2 to 3 tenths faster than him. And in short track terms, now let me break this down elementary. In short track terms, in Phoenix races like a short track, 2 or 3 tenths is a mile faster. And still you can't get around? So you're not going to get a half a second faster. It's impossible. The cars are too equal. I don't care if you put the left front spring in the right front. You're not going to.
So then why could Larson not keep Blaney behind him?
Because Larson made a mistake steering left. He opened up the bottom. Well, he ran the bottom of turns 3 and 4. Blaney gets run on the top. So Blaney's got to run. Larson sees that, he's coming with the run. I'm going to cut low and cut distance here to not let him get beside me. Well, in doing that, he let the 12 get beside him on the outside because Larson himself, while steering abruptly off of turn 4, got himself loose, and then it lost him momentum to allow the 12 to get to his outside. and then it was blouses after that.
The data even shows, Bosey tweeted out a graphic. Blaney was the fastest car on the track for much of the last 30 laps. The previous 30, and then the final 10, they were all kind of even then.
Yeah, well, once he had caught, once they all get within a certain distance of another car, all the times level out. AJ, it was interesting in practice. I got caught behind AJ in the first run of practice, and he might have been the 30th worst car, and I couldn't pass him. I was just stuck for the entire first run behind him, and man, it's just the wake. It's not the wake. It's the tire horsepower ratio, all that stuff that is making for the passing to be so difficult. Which is why we saw Chastain, who was really fast in the short run. He had some good long run speed too, but was able to hold off Blaney for as long as he did during the middle stages of that race.
What Ross did, is that, in your mind, fair racing?
Yeah, I think he's racing for a win. I think it is fair. It's unfortunate because it could play a role in the 5 catching the 12, because inevitably, if you are the leader and you're holding up traffic,
right,
everyone's going to come to you, and what it then allows is that the 12 is going to burn up his stuff trying to get around the 1, and then the 5 will creep his way in the back end of the picture, and then could put a move on him if his stuff is cooler, because he's been in open track while he's been catching them. But you got to think of this from Chastain's perspective. He's had a rough, an exception of one race, up until this point in Nashville. It just is. He's not been the Ross that we've come to know, right? And then so he finds himself up front because of, they were fast on practice, they qualified well, and they drove to the front. And he's like, well, I could win the finale. This is a big deal.
Right, you're not going to pull over.
No way he's pulling over, which is why he aero blocked as hard as he did. And so it won him the race. So how can you possibly say that move was wrong? You can't. It's just, if the final 4 are going to continue to be out there with other cars, you got to deal with this. And this is part of it. That's why you don't have 4 cars out there racing at once. The other cars play a factor in sometimes who wins.
I think it also helps make this race more exciting too, because you had Harvick up there, so it's not just those 4 racing. There's a little more to it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it usually is one of the final 4 guys that wins the race. There's a lot that goes into that. Sometimes it's because the teammates of those final 4 cars just let their teammates go. That always makes for it to be quite a bit easier to find the final 4 in there. And then, the final 4 cars for a long time were, a little different than what their regular season cars were.
A little different.
They were just a little different. They're just, quarter panels were a little longer, spoilers were a little higher. There was just a lot of work that got done to them back when we had Gen 6 cars. But not with this car. As we've seen, it's all equal. Everyone's got an equal shot to win this final race, and we had a non-playoff guy do it.
What do you make of Chastain's attitude after the race, just kind of owning it, that I don't care if he's mad, I was racing for a win?
Yeah, I agree with what he said. I'd probably say the same thing. I mean, it's not my job to care about your championship. They put me on the track today to go win a race, and so I did my job. That's probably the right attitude to have.
As you mentioned, Kevin Harvick's last race.
Yeah. Bittersweet because, it's hard for me to not get emotional about this as well, because I see how much it means to Harvick, and when he has his family around and everything. They do the tribute videos. I mean, you just can't help but know that how much this means to this particular person, right? And, Kevin, to be as competitive as he was when his team was having somewhat of an off year, Stewart Haas did not win any races this year, to still be as competitive as he was in his final year at age 48 is absolutely amazing. He is a unicorn driver to sustain the level of performance that he had for
47. Kevin's only 47. He's only 47.
Oh, he's about to turn 48 then. Because I remember his contract went through till he's 48.
Yeah, his birthday is December 8th, so
Oh, okay.
in a month from now he'll be 48.
Okay. He's basically 48 years old. It's just unbelievable. You can't list all of his accomplishments. It's just, he was a team owner. He was a guy that if he raced on Saturday in the Xfinity Series, he was going to win. He, had a truck team. It just, he gave so much back to the sport on and off the racetrack. And he gave a lot to the drivers and was a great leader for the drivers. I think it'll be a substantial loss again for the series. Is it going to be, a loss like the Dale Jr. or Jeff Gordon had? I don't know. There's a lot of Harvick fans out there. So, I don't know. You just hope that they latch on to someone new. But he's one of the last Winston Cup guys. He is the last Winston Cup guy that we had in our series. It was him and Kurt Busch that was 1 and 2. And so, just want to say happy retirement. He's still going to give back to the sport by being part of the TV. I tell you, he could really improve that Fox booth a ton. I think he will push them to be better. From what we've seen, NBC, the Fox, the big variation in the production that the two have and how much one is really into the nuts and bolts and explaining everything, whereas the other just kind of talking about some stuff. It's just like there's a lot to be gained there in the Fox booth, and I think that Kevin will push everyone to do that and be better. So I'm excited to see how that turns out for sure. You got a great base there, and so I think that there's going to be something good that's really going to happen from that.
It's going to be kind of like Tony Romo. I know he's kind of polarizing with fans, but he went straight from like playing to the booth. So Kevin's the first next gen driver to be an analyst.
Yeah.
And so he'll be able to provide a perspective that's not there.
Yeah, that'll be helpful. Again, I think Fox definitely could be more technical in kind of their explaining of stuff, but he will help with that. He no doubt will help with that, and I think he's going to push Boyer and those guys all to be better. Mike Joy, he's a great anchor for that program. So it's they're certainly he's not gone. He's not going to disappear from your TV. But we're certainly going to miss him on the racetrack. He was a tough guy. He certainly didn't give you anything. He took more than he gave, that's for sure. But that's what made him Kevin Harvick, and he was just a great guy. Great guy. I got to know him a little bit when I was kind of vetting Kurt Busch and kind of debating on hiring him at the time. I had lunch with Harvick and asked about him, and Harvick, we got to talking about some different stuff and certainly gained a lot of respect for him. And we had some run-ins earlier in our career. They were both before we both had kids, and I think that we both changed a little bit after we had kids. But it was fun. It was fun to compete against them. The 4-11 team for the longest time had this friendly rivalry.
There's a handful of Harvick things up on the wall here, right?
I don't think so.
You got the pie behind you.
Oh, yeah.
You got the Hans.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so we definitely got to tip our hat to Kevin. Thank you for all you've done, and we'll be seeing you soon. And good luck to the 4 team. They got Josh Berry coming over there, and there's going to be a lot of changes over there in that organization that hopefully get them going back on the right track.
23-11 ends their season, and both cars finish inside the top 10.
Yeah, we had 2 drivers in the top 10, which is a big deal for us. That's certainly we wish it was on the owners as well with the 23 car, but Bubba for the second season in a row drove a car to the top 10 in the playoff system. So, yeah, great job. They continue to get better.
I mean, that's another thing, right? Is that just, that doesn't happen unless Bubba makes the playoffs, right? Driving to the 10th spot.
Yeah, he was in the 14th, 15th in the driver points anyway before the reset for the playoffs.
Right.
But we had winners like I don't know where Ricky was or who else made the playoffs. McDowell. They were further back in the points than Bubba was. But they had with the winning you're in, you don't have to, you just got to win.
Right.
You got 26 chances to win to put yourself in the playoffs.
I mean, Bubba finished ahead of Truex in points in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Truex had a rough one.
I just mean it's one of those things, right? Like you just until you stay around until you get hot, and then you had a good final 10 weeks this season.
I think he had a solid 10 weeks. I think he ran about like he did during the regular season, honestly, where he had some top 5s and some top 10s, and that's kind of what they were for the most part of the whole year, and he just continued that through the playoffs. So it's really a good thing that how they performed. They were very consistent. That team got better on pit road this year. Still got some improvement to make. I think both of our teams, for our first endeavors as having our own pit crews, that was we didn't lose any ground. We still got room to improve and get better and get faster. But we thought that we eliminated a lot of mistakes, big mistakes this year. Still had some with the 45 car that kept him from victory lane a few times, but it's part of the growing process. It's why this takes 5 years and not 3. So I'm really happy with the strides that 2311 has made. We're 2 months away from being in our new headquarters. You've probably seen it off I-77 where 485 meets. That you can't miss it. Yeah, I'm excited for the future of that team and what it can accomplish. Still rooting for it to finish second every week to me, but
yeah. One thing to highlight here with Bubba's final 10 races that he only qualified outside the top 10 once. After Daytona,
9 weeks in a row. I think he said. I think I
heard.
Heard.
Only time they qualified outside the top 10 was Darlington. They were 19th, but after that they were in the top 10 every race.
They had just tremendous speed off the truck. Both cars did. When they were going to practice, they were like P1, P3 every single week. So they were definitely on kill. It seemed like they struggled to keep up with the racetrack as weekends go on just a little bit. And this is just from a kind of a dumb outside perspective of without digging into the numbers and really seeing what's what. It just appeared that, the field caught up throughout the weekend. Sometimes, but man, they got fast cars. They're driving them fast, and super happy with that whole team and what they're doing over there. So, man, they're gonna have a great place to work here in a couple months, and we'll see what happens.
We can't end this show without a final hot button topic, which is going to be NASCAR unlikely to finalize charter agreement until new TV deal is complete.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's progression being made on that. There's some things I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, the TV media deal is likely to fall in a very general range. Why we can't get a deal done before that, I'm not sure, because it's just one part of gross revenue. I don't know. It just seems like it shouldn't have taken this long. We tried for 18 months to get this ball rolling much sooner, but we just really couldn't get anywhere. And but it seems like things are starting to move in a direction now, a little bit better. But certainly it's late in the deal, and probably we'll have to. It'll probably go into next year, I would guess. Because I think the exclusive time to renew is like December 31st. If we don't renew by then they expire. The charters expire, or we get some sort of an extension to have a longer negotiating period.
So you would race next season, and the charters would not be permanent, potentially?
Oh, they're not. We don't have permanent charters now. What I'm saying is that they would expire at the end of this year. Then we would
Right.
have to race next year, and then lose them the following.
Got it.
So it's like a lame duck year.
Okay. So is you still get money from them next year?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They would have to. Yeah, they'd have those obligations for sure, but we would also have the obligation to come race and to get that. Yeah, it's certainly later in the game than it needed to be. I think that the framework's set to kind of keep these talks going in the off season, and hopefully we come to something soon.
Dear Denny, what do you have planned for the off season, and do you get a little time to yourself?
I do get some time to myself. I'm gonna take more vacation time. This year, by far, the most busy year that I've had with the podcast and the race team, and I got family. I've got to drive. I've got just so much on my plate, week in, week out. I will be taking time off. I'm gonna go somewhere for Christmas instead of having everyone here, and just gonna try to get away a little bit. I've got some recovery to do physically. I've got to get some stuff fixed. It's just part of normal maintenance for me on the off season. Like, what surgery are we having? It's like pretty on the regular at this point. But once we get that stuff fixed, I think I certainly will be better and ready to get going for 2024. People ask this weekend, I think in a Q&A, what do you do during the off season, or do you like to do? Some people like to go race, right? You might be going racing a late model or something like that. And I just learned for me personally a long time ago, my best way to get rejuvenated to keep doing this, 20 years into this,
To not race.
Is to not race. Yeah, I have no connection to racing in the off season. It doesn't mean I don't like to watch like the Snowball Derby, which will be on Racing America, by the way. I like watching the Snowball Derby. You got the Fall Brawl at Hickory. Yeah, I just like late model stock stuff that I tune into. And so, yeah, for me, it's not seeing any race cars or anything for a while is what I need. What are you going to do?
I don't have any major plans yet. I'm looking forward to Boone in North Carolina, the mountains, creating some fake snow so I can go snowboard at least once a week.
Oh, are you going to relocate up there, or are you just going to travel back and forth?
Just probably travel back and forth.
You haven't found a van down by the river yet?
I have not found a van yet. I'm waiting for you to get done with your Sequoia out here, so I can just take that and rip all the seats out and remodel it.
So those who don't know, Jared is he's really taken this granola thing quite far. You're wanting
For what it's worth,
You're wanting to live out of your vehicle,
No,
right?
I said I would like to have a vehicle where it's possible to live out of.
Wow. And then
I just want to at some point in the next however many years, I just want to drive around the desert for 3 to 4 weeks.
But you want
to
to stay in the desert?
Yeah, go from I don't know, down in
Okay.
Arizona up to
That's cool. You're a
Seattle or
traveler.
something. Yeah, I just want to do that and live out of my vehicle. First of all, you save so much money on hotel costs.
And you don't even need to buy soap, right?
You just buy one. I'm just saying, either shampoo or body wash, either will get it done for you in this situation.
All right, so would you rather we had this debate. You
Yeah.
said that you don't need
I just
body
said,
wash as long as you have shampoo.
I just said I think the whole shampoo body wash debate is a little for the marketing. You don't need both. Sure, both is good, but you can get away with one or the other.
All right, so would you rather have shampoo on your body or body wash on your hair?
Shampoo on my body, 100%.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Jared, do you still have the 3-in-1?
No, I'm just saying that if you in a situation where you're living out of a car and you need to consolidate space, a bottle of shampoo will do it for you for 2 weeks. It'll be all right.
All right. Well, good luck. It's
We need to get Jared like a little mini TV series then. He travels out west for 3 weeks. Get a little camera crew to follow him around.
Yeah, a little vlog.
He's already thought about it.
Let me guess, you're planning your NBC Olympic 2-week break to go out there? Wes,
Well, see, that's why I don't like that break. I actually do not like that break whatsoever. Because there's no way, I just don't think there's any way you could go away and check out for 2 weeks. So I would like to, again.
Because you're still in season.
You're still in season. There's still work to do.
Yeah.
It's just not, I just don't think it's possible to do that. But
You'd rather have a longer off season.
correct.
I'm the same way.
I would like the 1 week in June or whatever to go do a trip wherever, and then I want an additional week in this winter break.
Yep. I'm with you. My perfect world, our schedule would have probably 30 races. Maybe not. I mean, not even 30. 28 to 30. We're beginning of February and then probably mid-September.
Yeah. I mean,
good.
don't get me wrong. I would love to shrink the schedule. But if it is what it is, I'd rather one extra week in the winter and just have that 1 week in June or whatever,
Okay.
July.
Well, good luck. Holler if you need anything. Anything else to wrap up this season of Axe to Touch, our very first season? What episode is this? Like 42, 43?
I think it's 41, I think. I don't keep track
I'll
of the
take
numbers.
the over on that.
Yeah,
I was
I
only
think
supposed to do 40.
Well, you had
Maybe
an
a little
extra one
bonus.
because you had an appeal to.
Yeah, we also
A
did
couple
one,
had a few emergencies.
we did one in Michigan too when it rained. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
an additional episode.
Well, maybe this off season we'll get back in here, cover some off season news. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe once every other month. Well, then bam, we're back in the racing season then.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure come the banquet and all that in Nashville, we'll have something to talk about.
Yeah.
I got a review here before we finish up. The first race, this is from A House Divided. That is the username. The first race I ever watched was the 2019 Daytona 500. I instantly became a huge Toyota and Denny Hamlin fan, now also a 2311 fan. Travis, this review says 23XL. I don't know if that's a mistake on your part.
It's not XI, just for the fans. Just letting y'all know when you say it, it's 2311. It's not XI. I know there's some confusion. Go ahead.
After a year later, my wife started to like Chase Elliott. She doesn't really like racing, so she won't watch the race with me, but she always likes to know where Chase finishes. However, she loves your podcast, and we always listen together. We have listened to every single episode together since the first week. Thank you for giving us something we can bond over. So look at that, Denny Hamlin bringing people together.
I've brought people together before. Remember when we had Denny Hamlin seats? You get Denny Hamlin seats every weekend. There was a guy and there was a girl. They were both solo. Their seats were together, and they got married. Bringing people together.
That is most amazing. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I used to have a kind of a sweepstakes. Win Denny Hamlin seats, and yeah, there were two. We used to give away 2 seats, and there was 2 individuals that wanted a seat, and they just happened to both be single. Met, fell in love, had a kid, got married.
Happy ending.
The end.
You also signed a marriage certificate at Martinsville.
I did. They were so excited, and I'm happy for them. I made sure I did ask them multiple times, "Are you sure?" before I signed this. But yeah, they had their marriage certificate and had me be their witness. It was awesome, mate. Thank you. It was great, 11 fans. I want to say thank you to all the 11 fans this year. You guys have been awesome. NYO. I don't know. We need a new hat. That's just
NYI
new hat.
F
I don't know.
Y.
More
DH.
letters.
Yeah.
Another letter.
Next year it's our f***ing year DH.
Another letter for another year. I don't know. We're working on it. So thank you all for tuning in this entire season. Look out for some special emergency episodes during this off season. I'll try to grab Jared from his granola adventures.
Can you fly him back from out west? Probably. It might be hard. Will you have reception?
To
How are we get a hold of
one-
you?
To do one little check-in of like what's going on. Let's talk about who's moving where. There'll be a little news here and there, but thank you all for tuning in each and every week. It's just been getting more and more popular with you guys. We're hearing it every weekend about people loving the podcast. So keep tuning in. We'll see y'all next season.